Why do you think VA has been successful with minority veterans? And if that is in contrast to other healthcare systems, what sort of lessons can VA share with other healthcare systems about easing the worries of vaccinations with minority groups?
Mm-hmm. So I think there are things that are passive that we described that were true for all veterans, but I think they may disproportionately help minority veterans. And so these are people that we're connected with. They're not strangers. They trust their providers. They trust other veterans. They know the VA system. So I think that helps us out. But it's kind of passive. We have these systems to go reach out to them and kind of get them in for vaccination. Again, a passive process. In addition to all that, VA has been doing some important things to think actively. So very early on, we were concerned about vaccine hesitancy. And so we designed products that are specifically geared towards different veterans. So we had listening sessions with minority veterans and heard from them, what is the need for you to get vaccinated? And I think it came down to two things. It came down to trust and it came down to truth. So they wanted to hear from someone they trusted, their doctor or another veteran. We can do that. And they needed to hear the truth. They wanted to hear scientific evidence. They didn't want to hear all this rhetoric. So we have compiled the scientific evidence, for instance, to show that no, yes, in fact, there were tons of minority peoples who participated in the vaccine trials, tens of thousands. It's not like this is not.
Was there a time when people were when minority groups were wondering if they were part of the trials?
Yes, so that was a big thing that was flagging. It's like, okay, well, we know a lot of clinical trials is basically affluent white males are in the trials, and so if this is like that, we don't know if this is actually just relevant to us. But these vaccine trials are different. They have tens of thousands of minority people participating in all these vaccine type trials. We have very, very good evidence that it is safe and effective for everybody. And so that was one of the things that we targeted to make sure that information was available to debunk any kind of potential issues related to that. We also did outreach. So we spoke to different kinds of groups so that we could talk to them specifically about the vaccination, its importance, and try to overcome some of these vaccine hesitancy issues.
What were some of the issues that you were seeing? What was like some of the larger myths that you had to debunk? Well, one being the the fact that nobody was in Charles, that no minority groups were in the trials. I'm sure that was probably pretty easy to debunk. Give me another one. What was another? See,
another big one that we had was they told us, especially African-American veterans, that you had to talk about Tuskegee. You can't talk about, trials or anything that's experimental without addressing Tuskegee. And so we do.
What's that mean?
Oh, so in these Tuskegee trials, this is from decades and decades ago, African Americans were enrolled in these syphilis trials. They weren't trials. They were monitoring people with syphilis over time to see what happened to them. And even after treatment became available, even after effective antibiotics were developed, they weren't offered treatment. So they never got treatment. And this is a black eye, obviously, in medical research. But, what we emphasize is the issue then was they were never given the autonomy and the right to decide for themselves about what they wanted, what kind of care they wanted, what they wanted treatment. And right now, we're trying to do the reverse. We are trying to make sure that everyone has the information they need to make an informed decision about vaccination. The right one for them and their families. We're not saying it has to be yes, because I don't think it has to be yes. I mean, I want to wait. That's not unreasonable if you can protect yourself. But making sure that it is in the veteran's hands to make that decision. So we argue that it's a total opposite of Tuskegee, where they weren't given the right to decide. Here we're trying to make sure everyone has the right to decide.
We gotta get them one way or the other. Machine